How many of you guys are app marketers or e-commerce? Let's say app marketers first. Okay, and then how many folks are e-commerce marketers? Or some other fashion? Wow, not that many e-commerce marketers. Okay, great. Well, my name is George Revutsky, and I've been doing growth for about 20 years. We didn't call it growth back then, we called it marketing or product, but now it's this weird hybrid mutant child. Basically, over the years, I've had a chance to work out a certain number of patterns, whether it comes to people, platforms, or process, that seem to enable the companies I've worked for or consulted for to outperform, and outperform fairly dramatically. And I've also seen some companies I've worked for or marketing I've done underperform, and underperform dramatically. Let's face it, we've all done that, okay? So what I wanted to do is try to kind of coalesce that into a framework that is easily explainable to boards of directors, CEOs, co-founders, product people, and it's also translatable into actionable tasks, spreadsheets, and strategies. It's something that is not so arcane that it takes 20 models to use, right? Although models back it up. And it's also not so simple that it becomes meaningless. So I did what a lot of marketers do, and that is I copied someone. And so there's a gentleman named Dave McClure, who some of you may be aware of. He wrote a thing called Pirate Metrics, which helps angel investors evaluate investment. And his Pirate Metrics were R, right? Acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, referral, okay? But what I found really interesting was, he's clapping for it. He's like, good job. It's like, good job, you got it right. You got the acronym right. So what I found really interesting is that this framework, a lot of startup folks especially, would use this framework and they would bomb. They would really, really bomb. And that's because it was missing two things. It was missing the research, qual and quant, and the optimization. And by optimization, I mean two types of optimization. Optimizing your time and the company's time, and optimizing within a particular test or tactic or channel. And so I did what a lot of marketers do. I took something that was pretty good. If anybody's, yes, okay, some people know what I'm referring to. And I added an R and an O on top of it, and then I didn't really know what to call it. So I'm going to skip over to the punchline for a sec. I'm going to skip through a bunch of slides, then go back. So what I did, just so you guys know what you're in for today, is I didn't know what to call my framework, and then my daughter walked in. This is my daughter, Lucy, and she was wearing a Lion King, what she thought was a Lion King outfit, and I said, roar! And it became really easy to explain to people. So there are now over 20 companies using ROAR, 17 of them highly successfully, okay? 4 of them very unsuccessfully, and that's also a good lesson. So now I'm going to come back and talk to you about ROAR, and then talk to you about how you can actually start to implement ROAR in practice, and very, very quickly. So let me try to go back on these slides. There we go. Please just close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes. You're not seeing this. All the magic you're not seeing. Come on. Let's take it slow. You're not seeing the Shatner. There we go. Okay, good. So first, I'm going to do a tiny bit of humble bragging, only to say that it had very little to do with me, okay? So why is ROAR so useful, okay? Because it works for early stage apps and marketplaces just as well as billion-dollar or multi-billion-dollar corporations, okay? So this is Soothe. Soothe was started by 2 guys and a dog, literally. One of the guys was an angel investor in a startup I was doing. He and I became friends. I started advising him. I had a little agency at the time, and they started helping him out. When he landed a Series A, he needed someone to come in and help out as a CMO or head of growth. So I started commuting down from San Francisco to West Hollywood. In the first 2 months that I worked with him, they grew 28% and 34% month over month in revenue. I can tell you guys revenue numbers for Soothe because they actually had published a lot of this in order to make it harder for their competitor Zeal to fundraise. So this is great. I can share numbers. Soothe grew in 12 months, Soothe grew over 1,000% in monthly revenue. So they were making about 300K a month when I joined full time. I spent a couple years advising, and then I joined full time after they got their Series A. And then they grew to about a $30 million a year company, so about 10x in 1 year. Now, again, for some of you guys, these are not large numbers, but don't worry, I'll get to the billion-dollar companies applying ROAR in just a second. And what Soothe was able to do was beat a competitor who started a year earlier, Zeal, sold the same exact product, massage on demand, had like a 30% overlap in one side of the marketplace, meaning the massage therapists, right? Kind of like Uber and Lyft drivers, right? So, you're really competing on positioning and execution and maybe pricing, right? And maybe like geographic choice and things like that. So how was it that Soothe was able to do this? How was it able to get 200 plus newspaper articles in 1 year, get on Ellen twice, raise 10 million, and 6 months later raise 35 million because of the growth was off the charts? How was Soothe able to grow at 3 times the rate of Zeal, an almost identical product, which had a 1 year head start? By the way, I know that we grew at exactly 3 times their rate because Zeal was raising money on AngelList, and so they published their numbers there. And so I could see that they did a good job. They were growing 20 to 30% quarter over quarter, right? But we were growing 20 to 30% month over month for 12 months straight, except for June. June sucked. So how was that? Well, because we got very good at ruthless prioritization, and we applied the ROAR framework. Okay? Now, here's Postmates, completely different story, right? One of the 4 largest on-demand food delivery companies. Everybody in the space has been growing, very quickly. But how was Postmates able to grow at twice the rate of Uber Eats and 6 times the rate of Grubhub? 2 massive companies that had way more money, and in the case of Uber Eats, complete domination around drivers. They have an immediate home court advantage there, right? And in case of Grubhub, public markets they can tap into financially, right? And a much longer time frame in terms of work with restaurants. And yes, DoorDash grew a bit faster, but DoorDash also raised I think 2 or 3 times as much as we did. So how was Postmates able to do that? And by the way, these numbers are public. These numbers are App Annie. And as you can probably see, the red line is Postmates. So that, and it's kind of hard for me to see down here, but basically back here, that's August. And then if you kind of take the line all the way up to the top, that's Postmates downloads kind of getting to parity with Uber Eats and Grubhub. The blue line is DoorDash, okay? And we also know, when I'm talking about growth rate, I don't just mean in downloads. So I use Second Measure religiously. And so if you guys aren't familiar with Second Measure, get familiar. It's fantastic. You can actually see market share in terms of revenue for some of the larger apps because they have a big panel of people whose credit card data they get, right? So if you're saying, hey, boss, board, co-founder, the mirror, I grew 20% month over month, do a quick status check and see how did your competitors do in Second Measure if you're not using it yet. It's fantastic. So how did Postmates do that, right? Okay, well, I promise you it's not because I happened to be there, okay? Any one of you, if you were there and you were applying a ruthless prioritization framework, would probably do something in the same range, okay? I'm not a magic growth marketer I just show up and people rub my belly, I'm not smarter than many of you in the room. In fact, I know many of you in this room, and I know for sure I am not smarter than most of you. And the ones I don't know, you're probably smarter than me too. It's the fact that you have to be ruthless at prioritization, and that's hard. That's very, very hard. So, now that I've kind of set up the joke, I haven't given you the punchline yet, let's review what William Shatner would say about what growth marketing is, okay? I was gonna do a Shatner, but I just don't have the energy. I was gonna be like, hey, so anyway, of research, prioritization, and rapid experimentation across marketing channels, user experience, product development, and messaging, to identify the most effective and efficient ways to grow a business. God, that's a lot, right? That's a lot. That's very hard. How many of you today have a backlog Let's just say, who's the growth product person here? You're dealing with growth product or product. Raise your hands. Okay, pretty decent, okay. And then how many of you guys are UA folks? Okay. And then CRO, conversion optimization, user experience, like kind of narrowly focused. Okay, great. I'm assuming most of you have a backlog of things that you should be doing, okay? Ask yourself how things got to that list, right? Some of those things get there because competitors do it, right? And you feel like you should, or you should try, or maybe your competitor's successful, and so like, well, Hulu does it, I guess we should do it. Some of those things get there because the hippo, right, the highest paid person in the room says, I wonder if, okay? Yeah, I see some people nervously laughing. Maybe you're sitting next to the hippo. It's possible. It's possible. And some of those things are, well, at my last company, which sold tractors, we did it and it worked great. And at this company, which delivers food, I think we should try it. Okay? There are a lot of good reasons to do smart, good things, but not right now. But not right now. So I'm going to try to give you some reasons. One thing I should tell you is those successes with Soothe, all Soothe did was Facebook, Instagram, national PR, local PR, AdWords, A/B testing, CRO on the app and on the website. That's it. That's it. For 3 years. We didn't have a blog. We didn't do social media marketing. We refused to take ads out on the airlines. I can tell you that my friend Merlin, who was my boss at Soothe, who's the founder of Soothe, was really mad at me because I didn't want to take out one of those ads on the airlines and the American Airlines, handout or Viasat or whatever that thing is. Meanwhile, I saw Zeal taking out billboards. And I'm like, pardon me, but geez, with such a small marketing budget and a small marketing team. Look, a 10-person marketing team is still a small marketing team, okay? And most companies have 4 or 5 in a squad, right? You can only do so many things, and you can only do so many things well. And you only have budget to do so many things. So for God's sake, don't do 10 things in the early days. And later, when you're kind of in the Olympics of your sport, right? When you're Postmates versus DoorDash or Lyft versus Uber, for God's sake, narrow even further, right? Because that is how you win. It's when you say no to 99% of things. I said no to so many things at Soothe. I pissed off Merlin about once a month. I pissed off Dale. Dale used to work for Steve Jobs. He was our board president. He would remind me that he worked for Steve Jobs pretty frequently. Brilliant guy, by the way. He's like a coach, right? He's I think of him as coach. But I would say no to him all the time because I say, Dale, you had Apple's resources. You had Symantec or whoever's resources, right? We're not. We're little Soothe, right? We're giving people massages and we're in 20 states and we want to be in 50. So what I'm going to try to do is equip you with a framework for doing the right things at the right time, and then not doing the right things at the wrong time, okay? Again, that's my secret. That's how I've been able to repeatedly grow these companies. Headspace, WAG, Soothe, Postmates. A couple weeks ago, I started working, helping run growth for FTD and Pro Flowers. So everybody here, get your Valentine's Day flowers. Everybody. All the men and all the women whose men will fail them. Get your girlfriend's flowers. Okay, I have to meet my numbers. So, let's talk about ROAR. I already told you that research is key. Well, how many of you guys feel like your company does, so we're all friends here, how many of you guys feel like your company does enough qualitative research to understand why people buy or why not? How many feel like you're doing enough that you don't want to do anymore? Okay, every audience I talk to, people are actually pretty honest about this because we're all among friends. We're all suffering through the same career choice. So, qualitative research has been my other secret weapon, saying no and qualitative research, okay? So, all things equal, the company that outperforms competitors will yes, of course, convert more downloads into active customers, retain customers longer with higher revenue. But that's obvious. Here's what's less obvious. The typical smart person, the CEO, the product manager, the art director, the app designer, the programmer, is only right 25% of the time. I'm talking about smart people. people I admire, right? I had an unsuccessful startup or two. Like, I really admire the successful founder, right? Like, they're doing some things I can't do, I don't think. But they're only right 25% of the time. And so are you guys, sorry. You've been doing this 10 years, 15 years. Now, I'm not talking about low-hanging fruit like, oh, the CTA doesn't work. If you fix it, you'll get a higher conversion rate. Thank you, okay? I mean, like, you're trying to improve a checkout that you've been using for, a year, okay? You will have a hypothesis. She will have a hypothesis. You're both pretty smart. You'll be right 25% of the time. Well, okay, we all know math. If you run 4 tests and 3 of them you're either neutral or you lose, what happens to your growth rate? Right? At best, like this. And what does our job have in its title for most of us? Growth. So what do you need to learn to do? You need to learn to be right more often, right? If you want to grow, you have to be right more often. Well, how can you be right more often? You have to form a better hypothesis. And how do you do that without destroying growth? Well, the way to do it is because nobody wants to do research. So you have to come up with scrappy, quick ways to do qualitative research that help you form a better hypothesis. Take your quant information and your qual, put them together into a burrito of a hypothesis. If you can get to be right 55% of the time, you're going to be a rock star. You're going to be doing this presentation in a year, in 2 years. You're going to say, hey, I grew these 5 companies. And people say, what did you do? You can make something up. You can make something up. You can say you were a genius. You wrote the world's best headline. But the truth is, you will probably have learned how to do good research and test things with a better hypothesis. That's been my secret for 20 years. Okay. Now, you want to start with quant research. Okay, now this is going to be really stupid. You guys are going to be like, oh my God, this guy, this is so banal. This is so condescending. So I'm going to ask you guys, okay? Look on the board, and I got to squint here because I got old recently, but where did my glasses go? Did I leave my glasses? I think I might have left. Oh, here they are. So basically, look on the board real quick, and you see we got desktop up here in the desktop funnel, okay? That has like a 1.55%, I guess, or a 1.45% conversion rate, and like 62,000, visits. And then look at mobile, and that has like 100,000 visits, but it's only got a 0.24 conversion rate, okay? Think of this as any kind of on-demand service. I use that as an example. The data's made up. You only have one engineer to work on improving this funnel. You see the data. The data's there. All the red lines are like massive drop-offs, right? On both desktop and mobile. How many of you guys would work on mobile, which has 100,000 visitors per month, per week, whatever? How many of you guys would work on desktop, which has only 62,000? Oh, that's weird. It's not. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Sorry. You guys have been like imagining this in your head. Okay. That's lovely. Okay. Okay. User error. So you've got a choice. One engineer, your time, and you can work on testing desktop or mobile, okay? Desktop has 62,450 visits or sessions, and mobile has 100,000, much more, but a much lower conversion rate, 0.24%. How many of you guys, if you only have like 3 days to work on this, it's like a little mini sprint. How many of you guys would use your limited, you can only choose one, would test desktop, and how many would test mobile? Let's start there. Who wants to test mobile? Okay, let's just get a sense. Oh, don't be embarrassed. It's okay, raise your hands high, I just want to see. Okay, okay. How many would test desktop? Okay, let me be honest, the desktop people, all right, okay? Let me tell you why. If you think like a growth marketer, right? Not like a wishful thinking founder, but like a growth marketer. A growth marketer would say, well, look, I may not be so great at this, and maybe I'll only get like a 20% improvement, right? So if I get a 20% improvement off of what is right now 927 bookings, right? I'm gonna get an incremental 185 sales. A wishful thinking founder or a board member would be like, guys, this is shameful. Our mobile conversion rate is so terrible. Can you just make it at least half as good as desktop, please? I mean, come on, what's the big deal, right? Or like, this could be your iOS and your Android app, right? Easily, right? You guys hear that? So here's the truth. You can't wave a magic wand and magically, like each product, each platform is a different user experience. So if you're going to be humble and you're going to be a smart growth marketer, you're going to say, well, assuming I get a 20% win or even a 10% win, I'll make more money and I'll have a bigger win with the platform that already works. But I already see that both have tons of friction. So there's plenty to improve in the one that already works. So your time is the most precious thing, your team's time. I can't emphasize this enough. Your team's time. So you would say to your boss or your board member or whoever, you'd say, you know what? I'm sorry, but that's not really important right now. What's really important is that I grow our revenue, or our user base X amount, and the quickest and laziest way to do it is to work on desktop. Okay? Now that you know where to test, that's the first step in the ROAR framework. Again, this sounds obvious, but I'm telling you, dozens and dozens of companies I've worked at, coached, or had as a client, they don't do this, right? So then you understand why they're dropping off, where they're dropping off, but now you want to understand why. So there's only really like 4 things you should get pretty good at. And I don't care if you're a UA person, if there's nobody on your team that does this, learn it, kludge it, bring in an outside consultant, train your product person, get your product people excited about this stuff. Or you don't have a product person, get an engineer excited about it, because this stuff is fun. First thing is moderated usability testing and the 5-second test. Let's talk about that. Okay? So, basically, it's pretty darn simple. Participants are shown an app store page or a website or a product, could be a physical product, for about 5 seconds. You have to count it in your head. And then you're asked to describe what it is. Not that hard. But you just have to learn how to shut up while they first look at it for 5 seconds. If you can't shut up for 5 seconds, I can't help you. And then here's the questions. Can you describe in your own words what the product is? I know, it sounds stupid, but just trust me on this, okay? Second, who do you think the product is for? Third question, what would you do next if you wanted to use or buy, product or service? Okay? Let them talk. Just let them talk. This is easy to do. But also make sure you videotape their face. Right? Videotape them. You can do this remotely. I'll get to tools in a minute. Okay? Let them talk. Now what I usually do is I combine the 5-second test with. Let's stay on the 5-second test for a second. I'll show you how you combine it with moderated user testing. Okay? So this is a company I actually recommend all you guys use with your teams. It's a company called 15Five, one of the best workplaces in the Bay Area. Here's what 15Five does, okay? You email your colleagues, or in most cases, you're the manager. You email like a few questions to your team, and they take 15 minutes to fill it out thoughtfully, right? Like, what was your biggest win? What did you find challenging? Is there something I could have done better to support you this week? And then your team replies, and you just take 5 minutes per person, review it. It's magical what this can do for a well-performing team. Some people aren't extroverts, they're not great at, they feel it's too confrontational with a manager. Anyway, I love the company, love the people. Let me show you what doing the 5-second test did for us, okay? So this is the original landing page that they had. Know the pulse of your company. I'm going to go here because my eyesight's not great, or I have to look up. Know the pulse of your company. Discover ideas, surface issues, celebrate achievements, tune into morale. This is great, thank you. And then you've got a name, email, sign up, and then you've got blue text on blue background. This is lovely for us folks who are like over 36, and even better for people who are over 46. So let me show you what after doing the 5-second test and some moderated user testing happened. So we changed that to a headline that said, improve team communication in 20 minutes per week. A little bit clearer, like, okay, doesn't take much, and I can make my team communicate better. Great. And then, the section 2, simple weekly conversations. And then, you have a subhead that explains exactly what it is. 15.5 is a platform that helps you stay connected with your team, projects, and culture as your company grows. That's it. And then try it free. Instead of trying to grab their email, try it free. So to give you a sense of the result, 88% conversion rate improvement. Why am I talking to a bunch of mostly app marketers about qualitative research? Because it unlocks channels that you couldn't test because they were unprofitable, because you weren't clear enough in your product and messaging, and your UX wasn't good enough. Because at Postmates, we went from 7 channels to 34 channels in 6 months. That worked. And we tested more. But if we weren't doing things like this, and if we weren't doing things like this at Soothe, we would not have been successful. So, I'll skip through Luna, but again, you'll see something similar. The version B was get fast, reliable Wi-Fi in every room, which is a lot more clear and direct, versus version A, much smaller, fill every room with fast Wi-Fi. Notice how the word reliable isn't there, right? So insights you get from user testing can make you dramatically improve conversion rates. And so adding the word reliable, making it more of a benefit statement, a few other little tweaks, you can actually, let me go here, you can get a 27% conversion rate improvement. Okay? So, let's talk about moderated usability testing. So what you do is you start with the 5-second test in your protocol. By the way, you can write your protocol in 10 minutes. In fact, email me, I'll send you sample protocols. Happy to share them, okay? For hardware, for software, e-commerce apps, it's fine. So you conduct it in person or remotely. Participants are asked to complete realistic tasks with an interface or product while a moderator observes them and asks questions, okay? It's useful to determine if they can perform a task that you thought is easy for you, but it turns out you're 24 years old and you like to design apps with tiny print, right? Or that you have no trouble with thumbs, but a person with large thumbs actually has trouble navigating the bottom part of your app. Okay? One pro tip I'll give you is go do this with your competitors' products. Your boss, your coworkers are going to think you're so smart, because no one does this. Very few people do it. Okay? Like Jacob Nielsen does it, and UX, geeks do it. I do it, but a lot of people don't. Test your competitors' products and learn what's great about them and what's hard about them. That's a more intelligent way of copying competitors than simply oh, Hulu does it, I guess I should do it, right? Okay, usability testing and logistics. All you need, by the way, is 4 to 6 people. This is the magic of usability. Recruit 4 to 6 people that fit what you believe, or even better, your database tells you is a core persona, right? A core segment of your customers. So men 25 to 32, you're Comedy Central, fantastic, great. Test those people and separate desktop or mobile, right? Okay, I'm going to do usability tests on desktop. I'm going to use iOS, if you have budget and time, iOS phones and I'm going to do it for men 25 to 32. Recruit 6 people. When you first recruit, don't ask them stuff that will give them a hint what this thing's about. Okay? Don't be hey, do you like to watch comedy? Or do you like The Simpsons? But don't do that. So recruit people who you visually or by what you know about them, or you kind of snoop about them on social, what you understand. I love co-working spaces, right? I love them because I can go hang out, have coffee for a day, and then I will actually see my 4 people I want to test, right? Half the time. So recruit them. Basically, after you're done testing 6 people, one-on-one, moderated user tests, 4 of them will be great because you ask the qualifying questions at the end, you see? So if there's something about them that disqualifies them, don't use that as part of your research. But if you ask them too much qualifying up front, what'll happen is they're going to know what your stuff's about too early, and it skews your results, okay? Little tip. When you recruit people, lie, okay? So I don't know your guys' religious makeup, and this is out of my scope today, but if you believe in afterlives or going to hell, I'm going to go to whatever hell there is or isn't, because I'm very brutally honest, but I lie all the time. When I recruit people, I say, do you have 15 minutes? Now, if I read my whole presentation from today really, really fast like this, it'd be in 15 minutes. But the truth is, moderated user testing, from 5 second to moderated user testing, I sneak in some customer development stuff in there. So I'll keep going and keep getting stuff. But lie, tell them 15 minutes. If you can get away with it, don't give them an incentive, don't pay them. If you can get away with it, right? Now, some people, you're like, oh, I'm B2B and my customers are CIOs, CTOs. Okay, you're gonna give them an incentive, they're gonna be too busy. But all right. So this is a sample protocol. Email me for the presentation. I'll share it with you. But it's like really simple. Like, let's say it's an art website. Okay, great. Go ahead. Why don't you go? It's an app. Go ahead and sign up. So let them download the app. First, let them see the App Store page. Then let them, and don't say too much. Let them download it. Open the first screen. Some people have splash screens, right? Some people have useless things like that. Then tell them, okay, go ahead and register. And then just shut up. Watch them do it. When you see people friction at certain steps, e-commerce, services, doesn't matter, leave them alone. Let them suffer for like a minute or two even. At some point when they made it through, then you say, very open-ended. This is where the magic happens. You say, I noticed you pause a fair amount at the last screen. Can you tell me what was happening for you there? God, you sound touchy-feely, right? But don't say too much, okay? Just ask them. They're going to give you gold. They're going to tell you why they bought or why they didn't buy, okay? Now we're going to get to my very favorite case study, okay? This is a company called Play.com. And Play.com did rentable Legos. They're out of business, unfortunately, so any parents like myself, sorry, you're out of luck now. But it was a brilliant idea. You rent as many Legos as you want. Your kid puts them together. They send them back, okay? For like $19 to $30 a month. The founder is an Israeli former Air Force pilot and an iBanker. So like this guy is like super smart, kind of aggressive, super alpha. He's like, let's go, let's do this, right? And I'm like, Renan, okay, let's do it. So we do it for like about a week or two, and then I'm like, Renan, we have like the world's worst conversion rate, and my CPA is like terrible. He's like, do you know what you're doing with the acquisition stuff? And I'm like, I do, I promise. People search for like Star Wars, Death Star set, right? And we take them to a landing page that has that, and it loads reasonably fast, and they're getting all the way down the funnel, and they're not buying. And he's like, why aren't they buying, Mr. Know-It-All? Why not? And I'm like, Renan, I don't know. And he goes, aren't you the expert? I used to pay. As of a minute ago, I probably won't. And I'm like, Renan, here's the deal. No one in the world has sold rentable Legos before, okay? Like, I have no clue. So, Renan, let's just like tone down the UA stuff, right? And let us do some moderated user testing. So here's what we did. We recruited 8 moms, right? We went to the YMCA, the Jewish Community Center, the coffee shop, and we was like, hey, can I get 15 minutes of your time? It was always a half hour. But we bought them coffee, and they were like, I love this. This is great. My partner or my husband is now going to have something to do with the kid instead of just staring at an iPad, right? This is awesome. It engages the child. They loved it. Everyone loved it. They would get all the way down at the end, and I'd say, great, we'll go ahead and purchase. And they were like, do you have a coupon? Can I get it free? I was like, well, I thought that you said you loved it so much, and it's only, what is it? Like, we think we had the pricing at like $15 a month? Yeah. What's preventing you from buying? The whole test was to figure out why the hell these people with children didn't want to buy a product that was affordably priced that would save them hundreds of dollars per month, per every couple of months. And guess what they said? Does anybody have any idea what they said? What was the thing that was preventing them from buying? Yes. What if I lose a piece? Do I have to pay for the whole darn set? Okay, you are the first person to get that instantly. Everybody, who is that? Who did that? You? Yeah? Okay, come up later. There'll be like a prize. It'll be awesome. Okay, because guess what? That undermines their whole value proposition, right? Rent Legos, don't pay for the set that your kid uses once and puts in the corner, right? So guess what we did? What I'm showing you here is we added one bullet to the top. Lost a piece, no problem, we won't charge. That bullet wasn't there originally, okay? So the first test we did was that, and that was 100%, like 101% conversion rate improvement. That was our first test. One bullet from user testing, okay? Second thing we did was they had a beautiful video of like a really attractive couple and their child. It was a New York loft and like he's on the floor and like there's nothing in the loft. These people have they don't own anything, okay? It's just so spare. And their two perfect cherubic children are like there and they're playing with the Legos with Papa, right? And then the mom walks in and I don't know what this person does to stay in shape. She's amazing. He's like super handsome. And then a golden retriever romps in, like slow motion, right? And so when I did the original user testing, because I personally did these, I was so pissed that I could not understand why nobody was buying. I was like, I'm doing this. And so when we did it, I noticed all the moms, when they watched the video, would be like this. And one woman actually said, she's like, wow, she's got a pretty good thing going on over there, doesn't she? And you know, like I'm a dad, I'm like, I've got a little, my daughter calls my pouch Charlie, my pooch here, right? She's like, oh, Charlie's back, you know? Like, I mean, none of us are perfect. We all got bags in our eyes. These moms, you know, a beautiful couple that's perfect was not what they wanted to see. So I made a bet with Renan. I'm like, Renan, let's get rid of the video. And he's like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm like, why? He's like, because the person in the video is my co-founder. That was her family. But I'm like, okay, let's do a bet. I will do a shitty, stock image, right? And that'll beat your beautiful video that you spent tens of thousands of dollars on. So we did an A/B test with just that. And that was like another like 92% improvement. Because people hated the video and it made the page load slow. Okay? So user testing, qualitative research, key to unlocking paid acquisition channels. Easy to do, quick, people are too lazy. Also fun to do. Notice I'm having fun up here because I love this stuff. If you are tired of staring at spreadsheets only, I'm sure you all love UA, but if you love the substance of what you do, if you love an intellectual challenge, start doing qualitative research, okay? Your family will thank you. You'll have a pep in your step. Okay. Tools, recording and editing video. Use Appsy for apps. It's great. You can record user sessions. You can record audio. You can even record people's faces. ScreenFlow, QuickTime. There are apps that transcribe kind of what like the interviews, right? So all of that is really good. And then you can quant the qual data, right? You interviewed, it's this simple. I interviewed 4 people, men 25 to 32, right? And 3 out of 4 said X. Okay, that's actionable. 3 out of 4 men all said X. And what they said X about was on step 7, where, remember going back to our spreadsheet, I could see a ton of friction. Okay, that's probably good enough. That's probably good enough. You can repeat the test with, 3 more men just in case, but you're probably in pretty good shape. Okay? Now, I'll skip through this, but basically, like you can do this with very complicated e-commerce sites. You can do it with apps, web apps. It doesn't matter. Quick usability tests are like my secret weapon, okay? The other secret weapon is just saying no a lot. Okay, so I'll skip through this. How are we doing on time? Who's got the time? What do we got?
2 minutes.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay, so polls. Polls are fantastic when you're, especially if you're doing anything freemium, right? So just when people are, this is what happened with Headspace, right? Headspace does, free meditation app, and then they give you the take 10, you can do 10 meditations free, and then they're like, you want some paid meditations too, But I love marketing Headspace, and one of the things you want to do is when people aren't upgrading at the rate you want, right, to a paid subscription of any kind, figure out a way to, in that moment, intercept them with the following. What, if anything, is preventing you from taking, desired action? Just intercept them right then and there and just ask and make it open-ended. Don't give them a multiple choice, okay? Because you're forcing your stuff on them. Ask them open-ended questions like that. And that's golden, okay? Just remember, for e-commerce, about 20 to 30% of every e-commerce site are going to say price. You have a real problem when people say, like 70% say price, right? But if it's 20 to 30%, it may not be a problem necessarily. Okay, so polls. What, if anything, is preventing you from buying a shake weight today? Sorry, I had to do it. Okay. This is really fun to do. I just did this for an e-commerce site. Then you can sit there, do like a little nice, word graph, and you'll see size, price, cost, shoes, money, etc. Customer development, you guys are probably aware of what that is, but there is no better place to study it in a really boring but really comprehensive way than the books or videos of Steve Blank. I highly recommend it if you can do it. And if not, look at any of his students who have now kind of moved on and made it more accessible. But customer development will save your product and your growth team like years and possibly save your career. So I'll skip through that. Now, optimization. This is super key. You need to optimize your time first. So remember, first create a bunch of funnels, right? Create funnels, or if you want to call them growth loops, like French-speaking funnel, and weekend funnel, and new user funnel, and Android funnel, and Android on Safari funnel if you're a big enough company, right? And then Android in this browser funnel. And so once you see where the opportunities are, then do the qual research within those to understand why people buy or why not. Then form your hypothesis and start experimenting. Do all that before you start experimenting. Don't feel like the goal is to have 30 experiments running this month. Run 7 of the right experiments this month with a good hypothesis, and you're going to grow like this. Okay? You guys kind of understand people, principles, process, platform. But bottom line is everybody should get aligned on something like ROAR, because if you don't, you will continue to be somebody's testing monkey. Someone's going to tell you, I wonder if, and you're like, oh shit, there goes a month worth of work for the dev team and the QA team and the UX people and everybody, because someone who's important wonders if. So drive that shit, okay? Drive it by doing the research. Don't wait till your CEO or your co-founder or your head of product comes to you. Drive it yourself, okay? That is it. The last thing I'll leave you with, I got one more minute I think, is 5 surefire ways to fail at growth. So one is fetishize visual design over user experience. Just make the UX, the visual designer, completely a separate island. Don't have them report to marketing. Have them have a special relationship with the CEO and let them bypass what marketing and product want to do. That's a great way to fail at growth. Or at least slow it down significantly. At least one of the companies I've mentioned today had that system, and they didn't fail at growth, but they actually grew about 40% slower than they should have. And they grew fast. Number 2, just don't do any qual research. Number 3, start hypotheses with no experiment. I saw some spreadsheets, I see where the friction is, I'm just gonna test it because I think I'm smart. That's a great way to fail and retard your growth. Calling tests early is another way to do it. Testing mobile and desktop together, or assuming that what's true for Android and for iOS is going to be the same. That's a great way to fail. And only testing one change at a time. By the way, everybody in this room, I'd say about half of you guys will be like, oh, no, George, you gotta narrow that down to like, I'm just going to isolate this one thing. You know what? When you first start a testing program, like a true growth testing program, because your job isn't probably analyst, it's probably head of growth of some sort. So you want to test 5 things on a page at the same time, as long as you have a strong hypothesis. If you have qual or quant research that says these 5 things are going to improve conversion, your first test should be like a giant-ass page versus a short page with 5 changes. Why? Because yeah, you could spend 5 tests individually, but guess what? Now it's 2 months later. So try to get to a win first, and then narrow down. That's it. Thank you very much. And this will be available, and I will be available later. Okay.